Wow. Okay, so I saw so many fucking embeds in that video. It's kind of nuts. So I want to go back and I want to show you some of these embeds that I saw. Now, supposedly this is from Hubble. So what do we have here? We got a guy who has, he's got like a thunderbolt. You see him here? He's like riding some kind of a animal, perhaps. Like what is he riding there? Is that like it's like a bear? What's going on here? And then down here you've got whatever this sort of creature or being. I swear to God, I saw some shit in this thing. Okay, now there are a few more embeds in him. Can you see him right there? And he looks like, I don't know, a combination of Zeus and Genghis Khan, or something like that. Okay, so let's go back a few. I don't want to have to play the music. Let me see if I can just do without the music. There we go. You see him there? Look at that. It's like Sagittarius or something. It's got a face. Very centaur looking like. There's more here. I saw a ton of stuff. So this looks like, okay, there are two faces that look like dogs. This looks like a dog face, doesn't it? You got the two eyes there. You've got a little bit of a nose. Is this like Sirius the dog star? You see that? There's a lot in here. There's one where I think I saw a leprechaun or something. It was like, it's pretty crazy. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. It's very stirring, you know, and pretty spectacular in terms of imagery. It's back here. It's before the starburst pattern. Let's see if I can find the leprechaun. So you can see another face there. It looks like a tiger or some kind of feral creature. You see that right there? Very stirring, very, this is at the beginning. So we're not really catching a lot of this stuff here. See if I can play it without the sound. Okay. Okay, so here's another face. You see that right there? So, I don't know, what is that? An old man, he's in agony. Like who is this character here? Sort of buried in this cluster, right? See that face? All these embeds in here. And then it becomes something, now it becomes, you can still see the face, but it's almost, again, turning into this almost feral-like creature. You can see it again right there. Now it's really becoming almost very cat-like. Can you see that? There's a number of these things that take place in this video. All right, there's the starburst. All right, another part of the galaxy here. The galaxy, an ocean of luminaries. There's a current of light in the galaxy. Okay, so there's one here that looks like a bulldog, doesn't it? Like a French bulldog, maybe. There was one in here, I swear to God, I thought it was like a doge. All right, let's keep going. There we go. We're into the amniotic sac right there of the galaxy. And you can see the silhouette of another being here, right? You see a face here, see a face here. There's a lot going on in this one. It's like, you can see there's Jasper right there. See him? There's another face here. This looks demonic. This face looks positively demonic. Can you see it? You have another face over here looking in. See that? This looks kind of hellish. I hope Jasper doesn't go to hell. And you got another face up here, again, looking very tortured up there. All right. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, there's the leprechaun. Can you see the leprechaun? This is the leprechaun. This guy looks like a leprechaun. You can see the eye, nose. There's a mouth, there's an ear. And on top of that, you've got a very different image. This is like the Easter Bunny from hell on acid right here. And then we have another face beginning to emerge in the center of the galaxy. And over here, what do you have? You got like an angel, a galactic angel over here. This is a trip. I saw some of this a few weeks ago when I was playing it, but I was really focusing in on stuff tonight. Yeah, there's our leprechaun right there. Something important is happening here. You can tell. Oh yeah, this is where the Zeus the Mongol emerges. And there he is, riding across the galaxy with his spear of destiny. And of course, a galaxy is not going to be complete without a dolphin. Now, somebody say, well, that's a shark. He's hunting the shark. I'm going to say it's a dolphin. Right there. Right here. Keep going. Anybody else? Anybody else out here? Boom. And then it's over and done with. And voila, here I am. So as you can tell, I'm not in my normal location. I'm in a remote location. So you get the purple vibe tonight. I do have some holiday lights right here, but I tried to arrange them. I tried to wear them, you know, but it just looks a little too much. Looks a little too illuminated. So I decided to just down here and bring in some ambient light, as it were. It's a little grainy. It's a little old school. I know. Well, welcome to tonight's show. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your patience. It took me a little while to get things together because I'm not in my normal location. But sometimes that happens anyway, even when I'm in my normal location. So let's see who's here. Let's see what hardy souls we have this evening. And what do you guys think about those crazy embeds? What do you think about that stuff? Why am I not live? Maybe I have to refresh this. Maybe that's it. Yeah, I'm live. All right, there we go. Yep, I can see myself. And how about you? I want to see you. I want to see what's going on in chat. Okay, who do we have here? We have Lepetius, Cheryl Losciavo. What's going on, Cheryl? Mia Kia Alchemy, voices muffled. All right, well, let's try.
Is that better? Your voice sounds different, muffled. Yeah, I don't have my regular. Let me try here. Let me do this. How's that as far as voice goes? Let me see what we have here. Built-in microphone, internal. Let's try that. I think that's better, right? Sound is a little staticky. All right, we're just going to go with the regular sound. We're just going to go with this. This is the mic. We're going old school tonight. Old school. Do you guys saw those images, right? Weren't those images crazy? Crazy images. Who'd have thought that you would run into those images in space? Who'd have thought that? By the way, that comes from the Hubble telescope. What are they telling us about space? Or not telling us. Let's see. That looks like an Asian word. It does, Lepetius. Yes. An excited elf to me. Very cool. Fading out sound. Finding shapes in clouds. Laugh out loud. I see lots and lots of eyes. There are a lot of eyes in there. I see a pig. It's a Rorschach. I know it's a Rorschach, right? Frank Lloyd Wright. Oh, God. Charles is like boasting about his bills. A small raccoon. I got a very white quality to it. Sad lion. A lion. Audio good here. Okay. Let's see what else we have. April Himmel. Hold on, April. There's Ryan. They present it like it's real photos, but it's all just computer graphics. I think, Ryan, you hit the nail on the head, brother. Looks like a fetus. Pareidolia everywhere. Wow, that is a big word. Golf tees on Triangle, Steve. We're able to get to one. Cremation of care. What's going on, my man, Robin? Of course, Jasper won't. All cats go to heaven. Jasper is an angel. I see a bull. I see Lamar from Reading Rainbow as his character on Star Trek. Could been a crackhead, but got a hold of the wrong stuff. Allies within. Good to see you. Double phase out. Joan is Rosie Jasper's biological sister. The answer to that is no. But they came from the same pound on the same day. Robert, suppose that people who are faces in inanimate objects are more predisposed to schizophrenia. Just saying. You know what? I'm okay with that. Some of the greatest people ever alive were schizophrenic to one degree or another. I mean, we all know about embeds, right? Come on now. Advertising uses them all the time. No gaslighting on that one. So long and thanks for all the fish. Oh, that's a good one. Let's see. Who see faces typo. Kelly B, what's going on? Good to see you. Alyssa Ayers, clearly riding a llama. Oh, a llama. I say where EM. Okay, NASA adds color. They certainly do. Those are some very colorful images. Broke my heart when I found out the NASA images were artist rendered. The artists have a pretty good sense of humor, don't they? Mary Black. Mary Black is back. Is that right? Is Mary Black here? I haven't seen her for a while. Yeah. And there's our girl Ursula from PDX. What's going on, Ursula? Good to see you. Gaslighting. Yeah. CC Jones in the house. JJ Rain DeBlanc. Victoria V. Jelena. What's going on, Jelena? Heart to you. Tinfoil Tiara. Now you just need a ghetto blaster with some Grandmaster Funk. You know what? That reminds me. I'm going to talk about something that's related to that. Welcome to the Great Space Coaster. Get on board. Hello, new architect. Mary Black, it is good to see you back. Solar return in the Ozarks. God, I'd love to catch up with you at some point. Mythology and everything. Ooh, I like that. Hello, Morning Lights. Good to see you. Maya Rose is here. Crank 6 from Dubai. What's going on? Oh, hello, Dubai. Welcome. There is my man, Steve, Thor at the door. Good to see you. Or at least know that you're here. Lisa Dawn T. Seguin. Better. There we go. Much better sound. Yeah, we squirrel. Hey, Jen. How are you? Soul Journey's here. Carmen K. Oh, Risky Watcher. My man, Thomas Jordan. He's here. Benito. The Shadow Man. In the house. Beth Berry. Hi, Beth. Let's see. I'm curious about the theme of 2022. We're going to get into that next Sunday night. I got a good show planned next Sunday night. A really, really, really big show. Our friend Lindsay from Rogueways, I think she does her show right around the same time I'm doing this one. So next week, I'm going to start my show, and I'm going to be simulcasting here on this channel, and at the same time being with Lindsay and Rogueways. So we're going to do kind of a crossover deal. And I am going to talk about 2022. And I'll get into 2022 next week. because we have another week to go before 2021 is really behind us. Morning Light is checking in from Texas. Let's see, Christopher Lee. Hello, Christopher Lee. Soul Journey, unfucker on board. We'll show that. You're good. You're good, Soul Journey. Ren Star Wanderlust. What's going on, Rennie? Binks Pova. I see faces really clouds all the time. They're definitely there. Love from Melbourne. We'll love right back to you. You know, I almost titled tonight's show Sunday Night Astro Love. It was close. Hello, Mark S. Let's see. Who else we have? Margaret Brick. Just a little too much. There's my man, Michael Sisternino. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Anybody new? Got any new folks coming over? Jana Veal. Hi, Jana. And let's see. Radical Acceptance. Oh, I like that. Fastest year ever. They just keep getting faster and faster. Cribbies in the house. Stephen Chris. Okay. Bo Williams. Hi, Bo. FUP 77. Good to see you in here. Wendy Quintana. Oh, let's see. Victoria V. Provocateur Astrology. I declared a throwdown on my channel against your Mercury and Cap comments last week. Okay. Can we change your name to Provocateur Astrologer? Okay. We can do a throwdown. I'm good with that. Does that mean there aren't any Hubble images? Well, that's a really good question. Ryan, NASA, not a space agency. Astronauts. Oh, that's good. That's good. Evan is alive. What's going on, Evan? Glad you're here. Let's see. Gaia Travelog wants us to add a tarot and healing channel, please. I have to check out your tarot and healing channel first. I am a Virgo. Let's see. Gala Travelog. Tiziana Sesti from Adelaide. Oh, cool. We got some, is that Adelaide, South Africa? Is that right? Wow. Joni Mitchell. I love Joni Mitchell. Let's see. Equinox on Tuesday. Radical Acceptance, both sides now. Yeah, Joni Mitchell. Gucci the Goats, gracing us with her presence. Gracing us with her presence. Let's see. DJ Dre just joined in. Well, welcome. Ask Mahogany. Hey, what's happening? SL Sullivan. Yeah, we got a good group here tonight. Excellent group. Mercury and Caps are not boring. Me and my evil twins. No, Mercury and Cap is not boring. Come on. You know, sometimes I say things in snark. Just to look, you know, for a while, I would get people with Mars and Libra riled up. I would say things about Mars and Libra, and they'd get really agitated, and they would completely prove my point with Mars and Libra. You know, I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to astrology. I mean, look, signs and signs and planets are planets, and you know they do have inherent meanings, but they're not chained to their meanings. There are other things going on in the chart, but they do have meanings. And Mercury Capricorn, I would say Mercury Capricorn is born. You know, the thing about Capricorn, since we're almost there now, is that Capricorn gets younger as it gets older. So if you have Mercury in Capricorn, you're just going to get smarter as you get older, and you will lighten up, and all that heavy duty responsibility and burden and all that seriousness will begin to turn into levity and humor and wry insight, right? So the best is yet to come with Mercury and Capricorn. How's that? Best is yet to come. 6 planets still in Cap here. I ain't boring. You know, Capricorn is a formidable sign. Absolutely formidable sign. And it's rare when you meet a poor Capricorn, by the way. Very rare. Every now and then I run into them. It does happen, but it's rare. And when it does happen, there's usually extenuating circumstances, especially in the chart. But I like Capricorn. You know, I'm a big David Bowie guy. David Bowie's a Capricorn. There's a lot of interesting Capricorn people. Jim Harbaugh is a Capricorn. I find Jim Harbaugh to be really interesting. He's a pain in the ass, but he's interesting. Richard Nixon, Capricorn. I think Annie Lennox really looks like a Capricorn. She's got that cool Capricorn kind of vibe going on, right? Let's see, Venus Sun conjunction 2829, Pluto is coming. Yeah. Let's see, Christine, what's going on? I'm unbalanced because I don't believe in the jab, so says my family. I need to vent. Sorry, you can vent here anytime you want, just as long as we get the vent back. I just realized I have Mercury in Capricorn. A lot of Mercury in Capricorn tonight. People at Mercury in Capricorn have sharp, I think they have sharp business sense, right? They have a grasp of the, see, the thing about Capricorn, if you think about Capricorn and Saturn, where it's positioned in the galaxy, it's in between the outer planets, the transpersonal planets, and the inner planets, right? So Saturn is this modulating kind of point in our luminary network. And so it can look back at the personal planets, but it's also looking forward and ahead at the planets that are theoretically behind it, right? So Saturn occupies this unique position in that way. And Capricorn does the same thing. Capricorn can scale backwards and forwards in time. So Capricorn's a very, very interesting sign, and has the ability to have foresight. You know, I mean, if you think about it, Aquarius was Saturn was the original ruler of Aquarius, so there is some future-oriented capacity for Capricorn. If you're a CEO of a company, which would be very Capricornian, you need to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. I mean, even if it's, you know, your plan to go woke and throw away your business, I mean, that's a 5 and 10-year plan. So that there's a lot of planning, a lot of vision in a lot of ways with Capricorn, but it has to make sense, right? It has to be able to fit into a model. It's rare when you see somebody who has Mercury in Capricorn and they're really spacey. If they are, they're probably in Aquarius, and then Mercury's behind their sun in Capricorn. I've seen that, by the way. And my progressed rising sign is Capricorn. So, you know, I'm on your team. My progressed Venus is in Capricorn. My progressed Saturn is in Capricorn. My progressed Jupiter is in Capricorn. My progressed moon is in Capricorn, yo. So I'm representing the goat. All right. I'm repping the goat. I got a lot of goat going on here. I know Cap gets things done, more and more definite asset. Yes, that's true. Let's see who else we have here. I got Saturn 0 degrees in Cap in my first house. Lots of fun. You know, it's kind of an interesting placement. It's right there at the winter solstice. You're an old soul. Come on. You got to relax into being an old soul. That's the way it is. Capricorn ascendant, spacey Aquarian here. Getting kicked out of Panera for no Vax Pass. Ooh, are you serious? Wow. That's a bummer. Jane and Austin, I'm an Aquarian with Mercury and Cap. Yes, I was very spacey as a youngster. I've seen that with that combination. And then every now and then, right, you think that they're, you know, kind of looping out there, and then they hit you with that Mercury and Capricorn. Like, wow, like that was deep, right? That was deep. My husband told me Biden is going to address the nation with dire warning for us purebloods. Yes, I've heard that. I have heard that. Let's see. Prosecution and fines of whistleblowers against big pharma government on the way. What else do we have? Hey, Miranda Couch is here. Oh, well, that's who just said that comment. Neo representing Quad Scorpio here. Yeah, you should get with our boy Benito, who's slowly taking over the world. Third decant of Virgo rising. Benito, I have. Oh, good, Brian. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Timothy Hartful. Hi, Timothy. S.L. Sully. Proud of my pure blood. Fuck Joe Biden. Yeah, I'm going to allow that. You're good with that. See, look at that. I honored your Mercury. That comment was for review, and I okayed it. Jen S. says Biden is waiting until Tuesday because it's the first day of winter. Dark winter is upon us. Nice notice there, Jen S. A lot of progressed SADs, Venus, Mars, Virgo, particle conjunct. Who is Biden? Oh, Steve, that's good. Misty Minor, a major contributor here. Welcome. Asha Dance. Wow, we got a lot of Mercury and Capricorn people. You guys are scary. No, look, I'm all about. I told you, I got 4 planets in Capricorn. Let's see, my progressed ascendant, Capricorn. When it's not a planet. Progressed Venus, Capricorn. Progressed Moon, Capricorn. Progressed Jupiter, Capricorn. I have Saturn in Capricorn natally, so I can relate to y'all. Will you accept me? Will you accept my progressed Capricorn as being part of your team? LGBFJB. Let's see. Who else we have here? What else is going on? Sheena Holly, Mercury 24, 54 Sag equals Cap. No, you're still Sag, unfortunately. You're at that anaretic degree. Boy, we got a lot of fuck bombs going here tonight. Look at that. I'm going to show that one. Fuck Panera. Goats get to the top. They absolutely do. Taking a break from football. You know, I went to a place today to have lunch with my son here in Austin. And they had football on in the background. And I used to go to this place a lot when I lived in Austin. And I'd spend Sundays there basically drinking and watching football. And now I don't hardly drink. I'll have a glass of wine every now and then. Full disclosure, but it's very rare. And I hardly watch football. I'm not interested. Not interested. Sun, Moon, Pluto, Venus, and Cap in my draconic chart. Now, Evan, you're taking this to the next level. 3 days left till the Matrix, and we got a Capricorn in the house. Cool. Friday's show was really good, wasn't it? Friday's show I thought was special. Mars in Capricorn is a badass placement. Everybody I've known with Mars in Capricorn gets shit done. They get shit done. And the thing about Mars in Capricorn, by the way, this is a really good segue because I teach this in my course. And guess what? I got some good stuff here tonight. Question, what is your opinion on 29-degree sun? Well, I have a 29-degree sun. My opinion on it is that it can be challenging because in most cases, if you're born with a 29-degree sun, you're usually born right around the 22nd of a month because usually when the signs change. So a lot of times you'll get somebody who has that 22 vibration and they've got the 29th degree, which is anaretic, and there's nothing left there. But then there's this vibrational responsibility to live up to. That could be difficult. It could be challenging. Let's see. Friday's show was great. I know, it was like so magical. Really, really magical. Okay. So Mars is still behind the sun. Yes. We'll get a little peak because it's in Sagittarius. Just a little peak, and then it goes back again. But yeah, you have Mars 29 degrees provocateur. Okay, Jeff, I'm going to approve your comment, Jeff. Good to see you. Where'd you go? It went away. It was Mary gets shit done. There it is. Look at that. See, it got approved. Stevie must have approved that. My dad was 29 degrees Virgo. He must have been a great fellow. He must have been a great, great fellow. I'm sorry, I'm messing with you guys. Christmas comment. Oh yeah, we got a Christmas comment. Maybe it'll do us all a favor and oh, I don't know, take out like part of Washington D.C. Right? Maybe that would be a good thing. All right, so in my course, in my astrology course, I talk about one of the key factors with Mars and Capricorn. And that factor is that most people have Mars and Capricorn make really good leaders. And the reason why they make really good leaders is because they work, right? They will show people around them that they are not above working. Like they will roll up their sleeves and they will work hard, and people will see that, so that when they ascend to levels of management or supervisorial positions, people will go, okay, you got it, you're good, and then they'll listen to them. They'll listen to them and they'll follow directions, and because they've demonstrated their competence. That's what Mars and Capricorn is really good at, is demonstrating competence and demonstrating it in a way that is like boots on the ground. It's like the Mars and Capricorn is like the general that's in the trenches with the soldiers. That's Mars and Capricorn. And the soldiers look around and go, whoa, shit. You see that? You see that? So that's Mars and Capricorn. And there's people that Mars Capricorn usually garner lots of respect because of their ability to work hard, follow through, have accountability, right? There you go. I talk about this, guess where? In my course. And I have a special, I've been doing a little work, okay? I've been working on some stuff. Do you notice the new header up there? So I went to my website, and I put some links up for my course because they weren't really working the way that I wanted them to. Okay, so let me show you my course here. If you have not seen my course, I'll show you my course. Where is it? Here we go. So this is, I have a 16-hour course on astrology. You download it. It's a great course. It's all shot in HD. It's got lectures. It's got labs. So let me show you where you can find it. It's right here over on Gumroad. Okay, this is what you get. 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, 400 level, like all this stuff. You learn about asteroids, nodes, key life transit, Saturn, Chiron, solar return, relationships, chart of the moment, which we're going to do. Put it all together. You got relocation, progress charts, Sabian symbols, draconic, rectification, sidereal astrology. Like it's all here. It's all here. Soup to nuts. Now here's the cool thing. Right? Here's the cool thing. You can get there from my website. I am offering for 1 week, here's what I'm offering. I am offering a whopping 30% off my course. All you have to do when you check out, only 1 week, you check out, you put in the code Jasper22. Jasper22 gets you 30% off my course. And I got a few other things here that I'm going to do. So you get 30% off. I am going to give away 3 courses to 3 people. Now this is important now. This is a very important thing. I will give away 3 courses to 3 people, but you have to buy a course for a gift to give to somebody else. That's a good deal. You buy a course for a gift for somebody else. It's got to be a gift for somebody else. Can't be a gift to yourself. You know why? Because you're going to get a course anyway. Right? So I'm incentivizing you to do something kind of cool. And you'll get 30% off with Jasper22 as your code. Right? There you go. And I will give away one course per week until the end of the year. Just one per week. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. All right, so let's just go over this. Let's go over this. You get 30% off Jasper22. That's your code. I'm going to give 3 courses away for somebody who buys a course for another person as a gift. You just got to tell me that. And I'm going to take your word for it. And I'm going to give 1 course away to somebody independently, one per week. So we got 2 weeks left in the year, right? I think. If it's 3, I'll do 3. Right? So 3, 3, 3. We got 3, 3, 3. 30% off, 3 giveaways if you buy 1 for somebody else, and then 1 per week. And I'm going to randomly do it. I'm going to randomly do it. And I'll tell you how I'm going to do it. Well, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it. But I'm going to randomly, I don't want you to jump through hoops, but I'll get a sense, and I'll just say, okay, I think it's this person. So that's pretty cool, right? I think it's pretty cool. Now, the other thing before we get going, we will get going. The crypto webinar with Masaki is also up. And let me show you that. That's also over on Gumroad. And the link for this is on my Twitter page. But again, it's on Gumroad, and you can go to Gumroad and you can just look me up. So there it is. It's all there. What you get. History of Bitcoin, early crypto 101, what is blockchain, smart contract, crypto, Ethereum, various types of cryptos, how to set up a ledger, nano, S, hard wallet, importance of seed phrases, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, staking, and yield farming, doing a buy on crypto exchange, Coinbase, sending, receiving crypto with ledger, hard wallet. The video is 5 hours in length. This is a 5-hour video, and the price on that is $155, and that's over there. That's over on robertphoenix.gumroad.com. And I love that. Love that Doge. So there you go. Just a little business at the beginning of the show. Okay. All right. Why don't we get into? Let's just here's. I feel compelled to say a lot of things right now, but I'm gonna try to limit what I want to say to make it meaningful and worthwhile. So I just want to recognize that this has been a very hard year for a lot of people. Very, very difficult year. And I know for a number of you in chat, it's been a difficult year. If you're not here and you're watching this video, it's been difficult. The year before was difficult. And I'm just going to be, really upfront that you need to be prepared to deal with the reality that we're living in now. And that is not necessarily easy. You need to be prepared for what's coming. And I'm hoping, right? I'm hoping that you have taken the last 2 years to do your best to get it together. Whatever you needed to get together, whether it was, getting stronger, dropping some habituation, meeting some new people, getting a new skill, stealing your reserve against the powers that be and the elements that are out there, understanding how much you can go through and still take, which is a very important lesson, by the way. It's not to be underestimated. I hope over the last 2 years, you can look back and somewhere in there, there's something that you can find and say, yeah, I did that. I did that. I made a sacrifice that I turned down a job that was forcing me to get something I didn't want to do. Right? If you did that, that's huge. Or you had to stick to your guns amidst all kinds of social pressure, peer pressure, family pressure, and you're still in the game. That's big. That's really huge. It's major. Maybe it's really positive. I mean, maybe, I had Mark on my show on Friday, and he said, I just decided to go all in. I had hardly any money. I left Vegas and I came here and I built the studio and I rewired my world. That's what he did. And he knew, the urgency of the moment. And I hope that you all have a similar piece of that story to tell. And I will say this, if you haven't, then maybe you're not really recognizing it in some ways. But there's still an opportunity for you to tell your part of the story. Like next year, we get here next year, we're looking back on 2022, which is going to be a huge year. We all know it, right? This is a massive year. And we'll get into a lot of that next week on the Sunday night show. And I think on Sunday, I'm going to try to do, for all my subscribers that support the show, I promise you, I am going to do a private prognostication for 2022. So I will do one for the public as well. But the private one, you guys get to ask questions, certain sign. I mean, we'll do it on Zoom. What does it look like for this sign? I'll do some of that as well, but it'll be more kind of blown out. You guys deserve it. You're great. I appreciate your support. So we're going to do that. I promise we're going to do that. And hopefully next Sunday, day after Christmas, hopefully you can make it. But what story are we going to tell ourselves a year from now? What story, were you going to tell your past self from this year, right? Like we were all here. We were all here a year ago. And a year ago it was pretty dark. We were living, it depends on who you are. If you're in my chat room, you're watching this show, for you it's probably pretty dark. But for other people who are not in my chat room and not watching my show, there's probably a reason why. Well, it might have been one of the best fucking times of your life, right? Because we had an election and it went one way for one group and one way for another group. And those people, for a brief period of time, were, they were clicking their heels. I'm not sure as many heels are being clicked now, if we're just being upfront and honest. Of course, you're going to have loyalists and you're going to have people that will continue to look the other way and try to work on, the issues and progress, right? Because that's what they'll do. But deep down inside, they know that they're living with a fuck story. Okay, they know it. You'd have to be completely and utterly whacked out. I mean, really whacked out, in order to think that everything's just fine. Especially from that angle, from that place. I mean, you could ride that wave. I mean, you could be supported by the CRT, and you could be supported by intersectionality. You can be. I mean, there's a lot of froth if you're in that place, because there's so much support in those circles for those things, right? I mean, that's where they get their support, their love. It's their communion. It's their acceptance. There's a level of unconditionality amidst kind of a state or a condition that many people would call unhinged or unhealthy or disturbed, even in some ways. But they get a lot of acceptance. There's a lot of unconditional love. I mean, that is. And here's what's interesting, because we're going to talk about this tonight as it relates to mythology and the place that we're in. We're going to get into astrology with this too. Trust me, we're going to get there. And I'm going to play you a video. It's about a 9-minute video, and it's going to kind of tie in to the astrological aspects that I'm going to bring into mythology. So this started for me when I was really kind of delving into this idea of like, where do we come from? And I'm not talking about some planet or some star system out there, but I really started to wrap my head around the whole Tartarian part of our history. And I started to look at this, this very interesting timeline, this very interesting potential for a world that seems pretty advanced in a lot of ways. So I began to allow that to spark something inside of me. And what I did is I looked at another group. And I looked at another group who had a quote unquote creation story, who had a quote unquote cultural myth, excuse me, and who participated in the renewal of that cultural story and myth religiously. And that's a very important term, religiously. And that group has camps all over the world to support that story, that mythology, that organizing principle. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting because they have a past. The past informs where they are. And theoretically, they know where they're going in the future. It's all there. There is an arc. There is a narrative arc. I hate the fucking word narrative. It gets overused way too much, but I'm going to use it. There's a narrative arc that is intrinsic to a particular group. Okay, so I looked at that, and I thought to myself, well, what about some other groups? What do they got going on? What's their past? What's their story? So I began to look at this idea of what took place during the Civil War and this period that we call slavery. And when you look at the whole Tartaria arc, things aren't always as clear as we'd like them to be. They're just not. And you can look at something like what I just talked about and go, wow, maybe something very different happened. Maybe the people that they theoretically brought here, maybe they were already here. And maybe what they were doing here was pretty interesting and pretty tremendous in a lot of ways, right? And maybe that's really their origination story. But what origination story do they get? It's not great. Shame, guilt, bondage. That's not a great, that's trauma, right? That's a trauma that's passed on generationally, by the way. And what if that story isn't real? What if there's a very different telling of that story and all that generational trauma that has been passed on? And I'm not saying certain things didn't happen. Well, I'm sure they did. But what I'm talking about here is a different genesis of that event, right? Or different genesis of that historical, here we go again, narrative. And if that's true, and the original version, or the quote unquote real version, the one that we may not know about, is far more interesting and glorious and empowering than the one that this particular group has been handed, that changes in a very big way. It changes where they came from. It changes what they were theoretically capable of and what they more than likely helped build, right? It's pretty interesting when you begin to think about it, because that's not the story of their origination. It's one that's cloaked in shame, guilt, anxiety, trauma. And what about the group that supposedly disenfranchised them and turned them into slaves, right? What about that group? You know, maybe their story might be a little bit different too. And maybe there's a third party that came in and retold everything. And the group that is connected to that original story, now what do they deal with? They deal with the same things: shame, guilt, perhaps like you, this is really the currency. This is the social and political currency. But is it real? Is it real for both groups? This is really an important question, because we need to begin a conversation about a new mythology. And I'm not sure how it looks like or what it looks like, because we're in the middle of it right now. And you can't always define how a mythology emerges when you're in the midst of it. But we're going to take a crack at it a little bit tonight, because I think this is a big piece. So I started to think about this. I did a show on it, and then Emily and I had a big discussion about it, which was, the people on her platform loved it. They thought it was great. So it's been banging around in my head, and I'm going to play you something in a little bit. I'm going to do a little indication. We'll do a quick chart of the moment. I want to look at the Venus-Pluto retrograde, which is pretty significant. And then I'm going to play you this video, and it really dawned on me that this is what's emerging now. It's something about the times we're in and the people who will emerge out of this time. And I'm talking about people. I'm not talking about androids. I'm not talking about cyborgs or hybrids, and I'm talking about people. Now, that's an interesting story to also wrap your head around, because that's an emerging mythology. AI, transhumanism, right? So we have this thing now that's being sort of generated for you. This is what happens. We get these realities generated for us. And those realities theoretically become the emergent mythology of a particular time. And maybe there's some truth to that. And maybe it's just another movie. And there's another movie and another movie and another movie that we can watch or we can participate in. Right? Because that is an emerging mythology. AI, transhumanism. The future is here. Robotics, synthetic sentience. The new chapter of humanity. The fourth industrial revolution. Possible. It's possible. But maybe there's something else. And we'll get into that. All right. I just wanted to, again, just recognize that this has been a challenging time for people. And we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to keep your shit together. And you're going to have to deal with what's coming. Now, what's coming may not be ultimately the outcome of this time we're in. But you're going to deal with it. I'm going to deal with it. We're all going to deal with it. And how you deal with it is going to determine where you're going to end up. So remember that. How you deal with it is going to determine how you're going to end up. And my first piece of advice for any of you is to do your best to not be alone. I'm not talking about feeling alone, like, oh, I'm alone, I'll never find anybody. You need to connect with people. And you need to connect with people pretty quickly. Even if it's one person, maybe two people beside yourself, you need that. 3 people. If you could have 3 people, and hopefully they can be in your immediate environment, that is so important, because the power of 3 multiplies. 3 is a really, really important number. So we had this survival class when I had my event here in October, and 3 shows up, right? You could go 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and apparently 3 months without companionship. Once you hit those milestones, once you go past 3, then your world changes. The one that was interesting was the 3 months without human companionship. So 3 is an important number. So you want to shoot for 3 people, because that energy is multiplied. Now, 1 or more to gather together in my name, we know that, right? 2 or more gather together in my name becomes a trinity. Something very important happens when that occurs. So do your best not to be alone, and try to find in your general vicinity at least 2 other people that you can connect with. And here's what you need to do with those 2 other people. You need to communicate on a daily basis. You need to pick up a phone or get on the internet. What I really would advise people is to get satellite phones, because you can text on satellite phones. You need to be in communication with those 3 people. That's really important. Very important. You need to check on each other on a daily basis. It's very important. And then the other thing you need to do with those 3 people is you need to do a skills assessment and try to figure out who can do what, right? Who can do what. And then these need to be people that you can trust, by the way, right? Don't bring in a 3rd person just because you need to get 3. If that person's sketchy, right? You just like, wait. Quality 2 is better than like quality 2 and sketchy 3. You don't want sketchy 3. You certainly don't want sketchy 2s either, 2 or 3. So you need to do a skills assessment. You got to figure out who can do what. And then you also need to look at what your stocks and reserves are, right? You need to find 3 people that if you needed to, that you could like, hey, I got some of this. You got some of that. Let's do a little trade. I'm good with that. I'm good with that, right? Start there. This is one very substantial way that it will make your life better. It'll make your life better. I mean, let's just say nothing happens. Let's just go down this path. Nothing happens, but you've made 3 important connections. Those connections will stay with you. Will improve the quality of life. Why not, right? But if something does happen, then the 3 of you have communication. You have bond. You have this connection. You have the power of the Trinity. The power of 3 is really important. So remember that. 3 is the magic number. So if you do that, that's a really good step. It's fundamental. And after that, like I could spend the next 3 to 4 hours talking about shit, but I'm not. I'm just going to leave it there. You want a solution? Find 3 people in your immediate area that you can communicate with on a daily basis, that you can trust. You do a skill assessment, and you can have an agreement that if you need to share things, that you can. Okay? All right. This is going to help us get through this time. This is the greatest time ever in our recorded history, which of course is up for debate right now. Greatest time ever. You're here, you're part of it. And this is where this new mythology begins to emerge, and new archetypes, or archetypes that may be based on something older but become reanimated and begin to live through us. You know, the hero's journey is a big narrative and thread of the time that we're in. Yeah, that's true, the hero's journey. And you're on it. You're on the hero's journey, which comes from Joseph Campbell via Carl Jung. So we're going to talk a bit about that tonight, and again, how it looks astrologically. And I guess that's my invocation for tonight. And it's not what I normally do, but there it is. Okay, let's get into the chart of the moment. We'll check it out. We'll look at that. We'll go through that. Venus, Pluto, we'll check that out. And then I'm going to try to spend the rest of tonight's show looking at this idea that I have and why it's important. Okay. So let me go into where's this shite? Here we go. And I've got Wagner in my head. Dun, 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 dun. You know what's interesting about Wagner? Like, that tune really kicks ass. Then everything else is kind of a hard listen. You know, like the greatest hits of Wagner, right? March of the Valkyries. You ever tried to listen to the Gotterdammerung and the Germanic opera stuff? Man, that's, you know, it's not easy. It's not an easy listen. Well, then maybe I need to go back and revisit it. All right, where am I? Okay, we need to go home. There it is. All right. So I got this one already plotted out and planned out, pretty much. Yes, there it is. Let's make this a little bigger. Zoom in, zoom in. All right, I talked about this a little bit this week, right here. By the way, we are conjunct the galactic center right now. We have been for the last 4 days. And the sun is conjunct by Jupiter. No wonder I'm feeling philosophical. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is what we want to be paying attention to right there. So Venus is going retrograde at 26 degrees. Probably went retrograde at what, around 26, 32, 33, something like that. And there's Pluto sitting there at 26, 25, 54. Now, in the United States chart, that's over here in the second house. And what does the second house represent? Money and finance, right? Money, finance, hard assets. What does Venus represent? Relationship. Relationship to what? Capricorn. Relationship to, authority figures that are very Capricornian. Bankers, CEOs, politicians. These are all agents of Capricorn. So this is about the relationship to those figures. And this retrograde, but Venus also has to do with assets and resources, contracts, agreements. I mean, to me, this could be some hard medicine. In the second house, we're dealing with money, right? Money. Eighth house, other people's money, lending, fiat currency. That's all Scorpio stuff. That's all magic money. That's all Scorpio, right? The hard money, hard assets, that's Taurus. So in the United States chart, it's a combination of Cancer and Leo. The challenge here is when we get into the eighth house with Cancer and other people's money and banking, we're looking at things like savings. And I'm very concerned about the banking system. I'm concerned about the banking system as it relates to this Venus retrograde over Pluto in the US second house, because it's that eighth house where people have saved up and squirreled away their money and it's sitting in banks. And we know that a week ago, this last week, they had a cyber attack on, what was it? Some sort of it was a payroll. I think it was a payroll system, payroll management system. That's not good. That's not good, because a lot of times when they have these things like that, it's sort of like it's a test balloon. It's like, let's see what happens over here. And they'll test out the technology and they'll say, okay, we disrupted this thing. And they're able to get it back online, whatever, right? And I think maybe they did. You also have Evergrande looming in the background. Like Evergrande is the iceberg that's waiting to hit the Titanic. That's what Evergrande is. And some people say that BlackRock is heavily vested in Evergrande. And if Evergrande goes under, well, BlackRock goes under. Well, that might be true, but how much other capital investment that's tied to things like houses and retirement funds and individual investments, IRAs, things that BlackRock is fucking ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They right under Vanguard. They are one of the octopuses, financial octopuses of the planet. So even if they take a hit from Evergrande, it's like, well, it's maybe people see this maybe as well. It's going to take BlackRock goes out. All this other stuff goes out too. Although I guarantee you right now, Lawrence Fink, who is the president of BlackRock, if they did go in on Evergrande, their position is more than likely covered. Because even if they are so arrogant and have so much hubris that they think that they're untouchable, that they'll get bailed out, even if they have that perspective, or they can sit down and they can say, well, if BlackRock, if Vanguard, Evergrande goes under, that here's how it's going to hit us. And if it hits us, then this is what's going to happen. They will bank on that. I'm telling you, these people are Ordo Ab Chow masters, right? Order out of chaos. What happened in 2009? Solomon Brothers goes under, Bear Stearns goes under, chaos. What happens? They get bailed out. Ordo Ab Chow, order out of chaos. So they could take a hit, but they don't do things like that without figuring out 20 different scenarios, 30 different scenarios. So let's predispose ourselves to that just for a moment, okay? Because if that does happen, it will have a massive impact. And a lot of these companies, like Vanguard, and I think, what is it, Fifth Street? Is it Fifth Street or First Street? Vanguard and BlackRock and Blackstone, they're all interconnected. Like, they invest in projects together. They sit on each other's boards, right? So, you know, they've got their bases covered in a lot of ways, right? They will shore up the other if the other takes a hit, because this is how this game works. So I am concerned. I'm concerned. You know, I have this conversation in my head. God, I don't have that much money in the bank, but maybe I should get it out. I'm having this conversation in my head right now. And I'm thinking, well, shit, how much time do I have? And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, and I'm not trying to be fearful or paranoid, but I know astrology, and this is not a great aspect, and especially not in the second house, and especially because I know what's up, at least to the best of my ability, which is they want to create another Titanic situation for the economy. And I tell you, if the United States goes down, the rest of the world will go down. Maybe not as bad as the United States, but it will. Except for China, of course. China and a few other countries, right? They're kind of will be intact. They won't have the same kind of that's what I'm looking for, collateral damage. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we're going to see this pretty soon. Like, we'll see this over the next couple of days. You know, we're going to see this right around Biden's dark winter soliloquy. We'll pull the string and one of 4 Bidens will show up, and we'll get the new plan. And you need to be prepared for the new plan. And the new plan might be really sweeping, draconian measures around the what you're going to need to have for the what. And if you don't have the what, if you're not going to get carjacked, then what are the terms and conditions of that? Now, Boeing decided that they were going to suspend their mandate. Well, of course they're going to. They have too many people that are not going to do it, and guess what? Boeing's got a shit ton of government contracts, and they'll listen to them. They'll listen to Boeing, right? So what can you do? What can you do with this Venus-Pluto retrograde? It's a good question. Where is it taking place in your chart? That's the first thing you got to figure out. Well, for me, it's my second house. So maybe I really should be thinking about that, right? If it's going to be in your first house, you may have to share your concern with another person vis-a-vis Venus. It may be an unpopular opinion. It may sound like a town crier. The sky is falling. You don't want to be caught with your pants down in this. This is big. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say, pull all your money out of the bank. But you need to think about what your backups and what happens if there is a blackout for 3 days? There's that 3 again. What happens? Oh, don't worry. We're going to get everything back online. Do you think everything's going to be just the same when the power gets turned back on, or they clear up whatever kind of cyber attack took place? Think about it. They could have a very just cause around, well, it's going to take us a while to sort all this out. And you'll need to contact your lending institution or your bank or whatever that is. And then you'll have to prove that your money. You have to prove that. You'll have to prove just cause. I mean, this is where things get weird, okay? And then what happens? What happens if people can't get their money out of the bank? I'm just telling you. I had a vision a long time ago where the ATM machine stopped working. That was back in the early 90s. What are people going to do? How are people going to react? Not good. What will be the response? The response will be boots on the ground. So we're in a very precarious time. And I really hope that we get through this time without this financial cataclysm that I think is looming over our head. But even if we manage to get out of this time now, there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee that a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, we're not going to have to deal with this. We got the nodes changing. Like the nodes are changing really fast. And they go from Gemini, Sag to Taurus, Scorpio. And again, you're dealing with hard assets, other people's money. Scorpio, South Node. Are you kidding me? That's the banks, right? That is the banks. And you're dealing with the 29th degree, the 28th degree, really unstable degrees. So astrologically, boys and girls, this is the weather. This is what we're dealing with. Saturn coming into an even closer square with Uranus. Friction, tension. Look at that, Uranus at 11:11. That's interesting. So the week ahead is pretty intense. I think we'll move. I think we'll move through this thing. But you better pay attention to Biden. Read between the lines. That's important. Now, because of this Venus-Pluto retrograde in the U.S. second house, and if you're from another country, I apologize for specifically referencing the United States, but if it happens, you'll feel it too. So it's the way it is now. We're global. We're a planetary community, and the ripples will be felt mostly everywhere. Not China; they don't have anything to worry about, and maybe a few other countries. Switzerland, easy, no problem. But in that second house, right? That second house is the root chakra of the chart. And if we have this retrograde in the root chakra, what are people going to do? They're not going to feel safe. I can tell you that right now. It's going to bring up people's fears. It will bring up people's fears. And this is, I think, the big lesson that we all have to deal with. And Mark and I talked about that on Friday. And, there was a period, there was about a 48-hour stretch early on in the whole COVID game where, man, I got triggered fight or flight, and I wound up not flighting, but I had to go through that. And it wasn't a pretty experience, because I had to look at myself and say, what am I really doing? Right. What's my motivation here? And I put the brakes on it. And so if you haven't had that moment, I suggest you have that moment. so you can get through it. And it doesn't mean you're going to be fucking Mel Gibson and Braveheart, okay? But you can face something internally so that if something does happen, you're prepared. You don't want to be unprepared. And that preparation is mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and the power of three. Remember that, the power of three. It's really important. I stress that. Because if you do it right, if you connect with people in that way, and they're the right people, it can be a lifesaver. Okay. I wanted to look at the Sabian symbol for 26 Capricorn. Why don't we take a look at that and see if we can glean some more insight into that. All right, so we got 26 Capricorn. And I don't know these by heart, but sometimes I'm very surprised when I look at this. Okay. It's an interesting symbol. So this is a nature spirit dancing in the iridescent mist of a waterfall. The ability to perceive the hidden and creative spirit of natural phenomenon. The Sabian symbols make several references to nature spirits. Here we are dealing with a revelation of the spiritual psychic forces related to the element water. Water binds all living cells in a wholesome interplay. It symbolizes the constant flow of vital energies, the fluidity of a consciousness which finds itself stimulated by change. The great cycle of water within the Earth's biosphere, oceans, clouds, rain, river, symbolizes the basic phases of universal life processes. The ascent and descent of emotional energies and of love. We can personify these phases and speak of the soul of nature. And at a cosmic level of the world soul, the anima mundi. Water is the substance of the telluric manifestations of this soul. It is a magical substance, and modern chemists are rediscovering in their study of unusual behavior in certain situations what old alchemists in their own way no doubt understood. This is the first stage of the 60th subcycle, and it presents us with a deep intuition of superphysical energies, which at the end of this fivefold sequence, we can see fully mastered, phase 300. The consciousness here becomes sensitized to the downward flow of occult energy in its bountiful natural aspect. Okay, so what he's talking about is that ether, telluric energy, ether descending into this realm. And as a result of that, this descent of this energy, that there is a nature spirit that is being charged by this energy, and that the iridescent mist of the waterfall represents this kind of inner zone between water and air, right? You have this mist in the air. So it's this alchemical combination of these two things. And this is where this nature spirit is recharging itself and feels very much enervated, right? It's a very interesting symbol. What does it mean about retrograde? Because that's what we're looking at here is retrograde. How does this impact this Venus retrograde? Is it what are we looking at? Is this being cut off from our natural instincts? Or is this a call to become more aware of our natural? So think about this now. We're coming up on a full moon, right? This full moon is coming. Sagittarius, Sagittarian full moon here, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, to look. But this full moon will be important because there's an illuminating factor always with the moon. Tonight it's in Cancer. Right, so full moon, I'm sorry, full Gemini. Is it Gemini? I bet. So we have a full moon in Cancer tonight. Full moon in Cancer, is that right? So it's got Leo. Can't be right. We passed it. Oh man, I have to check my astrological moorings here. God, I guess man, let me just go back here. Anyway, we're still in a full moon phase, right? So it's illuminating. I think what this is illuminating is figuring out how to be instinctual. You need to listen. This is really important. I think you need to listen to your instincts here. Like, don't freak out. But you got to listen to your instincts with this symbol of Venus retrograde. Listen to your instincts. Here we've got 25 Capricorn, a store filled with precious Oriental rugs. Kind of an interesting symbol of tradition, right? Before that, we've got a woman entering a convent. Now, Venus is going to retrograde past all these symbols, right? Soldier receiving 2 awards in bravery in combat. This is an interesting sequence. By accepting defeat gracefully, general reveals nobility of character. So these are all very Capricornian things. A relay race. Capricorn is really a relay race, right? Next person, next generation, next step. So here we go. Let's just go back to this symbol. It's retrograding. So maybe what you need to do is you need to go out and get under the moon in the next couple of nights. Right? Put your feet on the ground. Like, get in touch with your relationship to what's coming. Use this as an opportunity. Use this as an opportunity for you to connect with what you need to do. Right? That there is an inherent wisdom in all things, even in this moment, the moment you need that wisdom. And this is about the descent of telluric energies into your life. So step out of your routine. Step out of your everyday mind. And drop it. Get outside, look under the moon, put your feet on the ground, and feel where you are on the planet right now and what's important. Okay? I think this is the best step for us to take. And it's our relationship with these things. Okay. Let me go back into the chart. I got to see where the moon is. Sometimes I just get a little spaced out. Right. So we're still in the full moon phase. You know, it's a little after with the full moon in Gemini. You know, speaking of being holed up, I'm like holed up a lot of the time in my place. So we got the full moon in Cancer. It's right there. I'll show it. So we're coming off that full moon in Gemini, but it's still very bright, very illuminating. Boom, right here. And in some ways, maybe even better. Right there, bang, in conjunct with Saturn. That's an interesting aspect too. Okay, so I want to shift the conversation because I addressed this. I addressed this Venus retrograde, and I've shared my concerns with it and about it. And I think you need to have a bit of a plan here. But allow for your plan to be as instinctual and what's the word I'm looking for? Instinctual and in some ways inspired as it is logical and rational. Okay? All right. So you know, I'm a big fan of Jason Whitlock in his show. And he's got this guy, Jimmy Dodds, who's really, really funny. He goes by Uncle Jimmy. And they did this send-up the other night on his show. And it's trying to be funny, but it's actually asking some interesting questions. And it's talking about mythologies And I'm going to bring it back to astrology. And I want to talk about how this kind of fits in a weird way. Okay. So if you haven't seen Uncle Jimmy before, he's really, really talented. Jason got to meet him. I think he was a bouncer and a bartender at a strip club in Kansas City when Jason was a sports writer there. And he and Jimmy have been fast friends ever since. And he's one of the best parts of Jason's show. So this is takeoff on, like, he's pitching a script. And this guy's named Butter, and Butter is a Nashville country western music artist. That's where Jason is. So I'm going to play this. It's about a little over 7 minutes, and I'm going to bring it back to astrology. And I think you'll get what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go.
Doggy. That was a mighty fine song you got right there, Butter.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, look here. Uncle Jimmy will tell you a story, and I'm going to need you to pipe down for me. You think you can do that for me?
No problem, no problem, partner. I enjoy a good story.
Listen up here, man. America's changing. I'm not sure it's changing for the better, you hear me? I remember a time Americans was raised on Western movies. You know, the stories that captured the good old American spirit. Freedom, know-how. Remember back in the day, you'd have a brothel filled with loose women? Hey, you get a good shot of whiskey, and when some bad shit went down, a cowboy would ride into town and set things to right again.
Like John Wayne, the Searchers.
I'm more so speaking about like Jamie Foxx in the Django.
Clint Eastwood, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, that's all right, but I'm more of a Samuel L. Jackson in The Hateful Eight.
Yeah. Gary Cooper. High Noon.
All that's good. Uncle Jimmy done seen them all. I done seen them all. I done seen The Lone Ranger. I done seen Gunsmoke. Shane. What happened to all our heroes? The good guys. They had the odds stacked up against them. No help. Had to do them all by himself. But he mans up, and he beats the bad guys. Seems like we just don't get movies like that no more. We don't know the good guys from the bad guys. Everybody act like they confused.
Yes, sir. They sure do.
Anyway, look here, man. Uncle Jimmy wrote him a little old school Western movie. And man, I'm gonna get that fat nephew of mine to get me in front of one of them big studio executives out in Hollywood so I can pitch my movie to him. I do believe that they gonna love
it. Yeah, Jason, he sure is fat. Yeah.
Don't nobody call Jason fat but me. Come on. Listen anyway, that's my nephew, okay? The movie is my adaptation of Pale Rider. You ever see Pale Rider?
Yeah, it's a classic. Whew. Clint Eastwood, he was a preacher.
Okay, listen, take a listen, buddy. Listen, this is my story. See, it all started out in a frontier town called Kenosha. There was this mean cuss by the name of Blake. Man, he'd been in and out of trouble for years. And then this varmint went and beat up a woman. He sexually assaulted her, and the judge finally issued a warrant for his arrest. Well, when the sheriff and his deputies came a-calling to get him, there was this whole dust-up. And man, just about everybody in town, they had a different story about how it went down, but the long and the short of it is, Blake wasn't about to surrender quietly to the sheriff, okay? Well, and he was trying to escape, and he jumped in his wagon, but the wagon had kids in the back of it. And also, up under the saddle of the mare, he had a knife. Well, when Blake went for that knife, all he heard, pop, pop, pop. Sheriff and the deputies put old Blake down. Now that sumbitch Blake didn't die, mind you. Now he darn sure was crippled for life. But let me tell you something, Blake ran with some powerful outlaws. They went by the name of the BLM gang. They got that name BLM because they burned, looted, and murdered all across the West. And the BLM gang, well, they thought that the sheriff and his deputies were wrong. And they thought that they shouldn't have shot Blake. So they did what gangs did back in the Old West. They started terrorizing the whole town to get revenge on the sheriff by burning, looting, and destroying property. And the mayor and the governor was scared out of their minds. They went through the sheriff, the deputies, and in the time, little old Kenosha's greatest need, well, the law skipped town with their tails between their legs. So the BLM reign of terror got worse. Old people got beat up. One livery, they burned down and wiped out over 100 horses and wagons. Now this right here is where our hero enters the story. He's a young wannabe gunslinger named Kyle. They called him the Pale Rider. Now, man, he might not have even been 18 years old yet, but he'd had already developed a reputation as being a bit of a good do-gooder. Maybe even a bit of a goody two-shoes, as some might even say, but he was trying to learn medicine and he was trying to help people, and he even did rescues down the town's local swimming hole. He was a sweet kid, but Buddy, he was green as hell around the ears, you might say. Now some say that Kyle had no business even riding up against that BLM gang. But there was another livery asking for help, just down the street from the other one. As a matter of fact, that had just been torched. Well, when the sun fell, another night of BLM burning and looting, it commenced. Well, the Pale Rider grabbed his gun and stood out in front of that livery like a natural-born man. This one BLM member, name was Rosenbaum, nasty varmint, child molester. He came at Pale Rider first, tried to take Kyle's gun from him. Next thing you know, all you hear, bap, bap, bap. Young Kyle stood his ground. Rosenbaum went down, hit him right between the eyes. Well, now, old Kyle was in for it then. The whole BLM gang was charging at him, chasing him down the street. He's surrounded. He's taking blows one after another. One BLM guy even jump kicked Kyle. Pow! Son of a bitch guy named Hubert. Now, he was a domestic abuser. Well, he takes a plank from a buckboard and starts wailing on Kyle like he's crazy. Well, then he starts trying to take Kyle's gun. Next thing you know, you hear bap. Pale Rider strikes again. Goodbye, Hubert. Then we had one final BLM thug. His name was Gage. He's a hard-drinking gunslinger. He too had been in and out of jail, and he comes at Kyle, pointing his six-shooter right at our hero. Well, he looks like our hero Pale Rider's finished. And somehow or another, old Kyle gets the drop on Gage. Next thing you know, bang! Down goes Gage! Down goes Gage! The final outlaw. The Pale Rider then saddled up his horse, rode out of town. He went and turned himself in to the next marshal in the next town. You know, some people blamed him for crossing state lines, but when he went to trial, the jury set him free. Peace was restored to Kenosha. What you think about that there, buddy?
It makes me think of a little song. The Pale Rider rode into town. Good folks were in peril and buildings burned down. Armed with his honor and a patriot's creed, he stared down the barrel and defended the streets. Some called him an outlaw, some called him a shame, some called him a hero as they hauled Kyle away.
That's beautiful, brother. Just beautiful.
Okay, so I wanted to show you that. And first of all, I'm not here to publicize Kyle Rittenhouse as a hero. Okay, that's not what this is about. I'm not saying, gee, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse, he's the new archetype of being a hero. That's not why I played it for you to some extent. So this is a really interesting connection to things like archetypes and emerging mythology. So they're going back in time and they're looking at this whole idea of the cowboy and, you know, standing up in, you know, for a town that's got trouble in town and there's no law. I mean, there's a metaphor there, right? You can see that it's not that hard. But the cowboy thing hasn't really existed for a while. And it's kind of an interesting metaphor because they're trying to find a way to what? Mythologize Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I think there's a lot of weird shit around Kyle Rittenhouse. Some, you know, I've talked about it before, the connection with Tucker Carlson, his producer. There's some weird stuff. The trial was weird, right? I mean, there's a lot of strange things that are connected to the Kyle Rittenhouse story. Now, that said, we'll just put that aside for a minute. And in Jungian psychology, Carl Jung talks about how we don't have rites of passage in our lives. For the most part, we don't. And the subconscious will take elements from a person's life and the subconscious will essentially create a rite of passage through a crisis. That happened to me when I was 21 and I was drunk out of my mind and I fell asleep at the wheel of my car at about 2:30 in the morning on the way to San Francisco, and I bounced off the center divider. And it set in a chain of events in motion over the next 48 hours where I had a very intense rite of passage as a result of that. And it was this archetypal force that generated that in relationship with my subconscious to have that event, to have that experience, right? So Jung talks about this, and it's very important. So if that process occurs on a personal level, and we talk about mythologies and emerging mythologies, and we have been in a period of time where it's almost like the air has been let out of that, for better or worse. And some people say, hey, maybe it's better, right? But what do we get? We get superhero tales. And the superhero tales look a certain way, and now they're not even remotely interesting, or I mean, they're just filled with agenda. It's like it's all agenda based, and it's not really talking about these archetypal themes. I mean, they're kind of maybe new archetypes, but it doesn't have traction. It doesn't have gravitas because it all feels very forced and homogenized. Not homogenized, but forced and based on a particular set of parameters that have to be set forward for this thing to be accepted culturally, right? That's not how myth works. It doesn't work that way. So when you look at this whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and you look at this idea that we live in this realm of archetypes and the collective unconscious, and that it will take certain individuals or certain experiences, and it will cast them in a maybe heroic or a mythological light, even if the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing might be astroturfed. I mean, maybe it's a psyop, and maybe that's how it works anyway. You know, maybe that's how these things work anyway. and that maybe there's some reality, truth, and traction because there is a Rittenhouse. He's got a family. Like there's a story being told there. Do we know all of it? And so I feel like what that little snippet with Jimmy and Butter is about is they're working out something on an archetypal level. And we're looking around and they're looking, and there's Kyle Rittenhouse. And that's about the closest thing that we have to something like what they were referencing in the old Western movies. And so this is probably a clumsy, awkward attempt, but it's an attempt to begin to craft a mythology for the time that we're living in. And I think this is what's going on. So where are we at with Chiron? It's in Aries. Go back 50 years, right? You go back when last time Chiron went into Aries in 2018. Go back to 1968. What was going on in 1968? Well, it has a lot to do with what was going on in 50 years before that. You have 1918, right? So 1918, we're just coming out of World War I. And theoretically, the men coming out from World War I were what? Heroes. They were heroes. They had defeated the Germans. They got jabbed with Spanish flu, but hurrah, right? Look what happened. Hey, and during that period of time, a brief period of time when they come back, they kind of go through this Gilded Age period. And Hemingway starts writing novels or starts writing, right? But they come home basically as heroes is the point that I'm trying to make. And you go from 1918, 50 years later to 1968, where are we? We're in the midst of the Vietnam War. And are the soldiers in Vietnam considered heroes? No, they're not. Nobody likes the war. The war is demonized, and probably for good reason, right? Shouldn't have been over there, shouldn't have been fighting the damn war. The French could have fought their own damn war, but we know why they went there. And they went there to control the opium trade. I mean, that was a big thing. The French were taking opium out of Vietnam and bringing it to Marseille and bringing it to Europe. And guess who took over? There's a lot more to what happened. I mean, the black family got obliterated during the Vietnam War. It was a bad scene, but they're not heroes. That's Chiron and Aries. That's the wounded soldier. Now, there were guys that came home from World War I wounded. Don't get me wrong. But how society viewed them and how they celebrated them was very different than what was happening in 1968. And then 1968 is the birth of really the revolutionary. You have people like the Weather Underground, and I've talked about this before. You have the riots in Paris. I mean, the world is on fire in 1968. And yet that's the mythos that's kind of born out of that period. You think about the Weather Underground and Jerry Rubin and people like the MC5, and there's this kind of mythology that emerges from that time, and rock and roll really becomes about really rebellion. And you have the Rolling Stones, and you have Altamont, and it gets very dark. And this idea that people are stand-up people and they do the right thing, that's not cutting it. That's not what's happening in 1968. And that's Chiron and Aries. 1918, different story. Welcome back. You're great. Great job. Love you. Let's hang out until the economy, let's have fun and hang out till the economy crashes. Oh, there's this thing called the stock market. You should check it out and buy a lot of it. Now, here we are, Chiron and Aries again. And one could say that we are in the midst of a war, and we are. It's an information war. It's a psychological war. It's a spiritual war, and we're in it. We are definitely in it. And I feel like what we're doing here, and I know that the 1918, 1917, by 1918, the war in in Germany's over, right? They're getting ready to lay all the heavy duty reparations on them, all the stuff that comes out of the Treaty of Versailles. But the general idea is that, hey, we won that war. And in 1968, we're losing the war. We're losing the war in Vietnam. We're losing the war at home, right? I mean, you had the war of the sexes. You had this split between generations, and I've talked about this. Everything just gets atomized, and heroes are hard to find in 1968. Do you know who was the hero in 1968? George Foreman. George Foreman went to the Olympics in Mexico, and he won the gold medal. And he walked around the ring with a little American flag after he won his gold medal. And then you have Lee Evans and John Carlos and Tommy Smith, and they've got the Black Power thing. So the whole idea of being a hero and representing your country, gone. Like, nobody talked about George Foreman or really remembers it, but boy, they remember, Lee Evans and John Carlos and Tommy Smith, all great track athletes, by the way. That's where we were in 1968. So let's go now. Where are we now? We're in this interesting synthesis point because there's that kind of naive idea that we were heroic in 1918. And the boys came home and we celebrated, and everybody was having a good time until the stock market crashed. That wasn't the case in 1968. That's like the complete opposite of what happened during this 50-year Chiron cycle. So we're in this synthesis moment. And in a lot of ways, we're dealing with like some very similar factors from 1918 and 1968. In 1918, they were dealing with the Spanish flu. What are we dealing with now? In 1968, we were dealing with the rise of socialism and communism, whether it was in South America or the Far East or at home with groups like SDS, CPUSA getting stronger, right? What are we dealing with now? We're dealing with the same thing, only right now it's institutional. Like what was happening then with boots on the ground, now it's, polished, nun bush shoes. I'm not up on shoes, but nun bush shoes in the White House or Washington, D.C. That's the big change. So we're dealing with this synthesis period of that time, but we're also dealing with some factors that were also part of the previous Chiron cycle, the one before it and the one before that. Quite interesting. So what does it mean? Well, it means that we're bringing these three cycles and eras together. And my feeling is when you look at that little snippet as kind of awkward and I love Uncle Jimmy. He's great. He's really funny. But there's something there, right? They're tapping into this idea that somebody theoretically has some values and theoretically has some morals. It puts themselves in a risky situation and he's willing to sacrifice himself for his community or property. And that might be the case with Rittenhouse to a certain degree. Some of it might be, I don't really know the full answer there. All I know is that there's some high strange with it. And there's some high strange with the trial. But we're going to take it kind of at face value because maybe this is what this collective archetypal energy is trying to assemble. And I think we're trying to find that too. And I've talked about this idea that Kurosawa has, who wrote the Seven Samurai, which is the foundation for the Magnificent Seven, which is a group of men who come to the aid of a village in Mexico and defend them, right? Well, the Japanese version of that was directed by Kurosawa. And Kurosawa has this very interesting theory on good and evil. And I've talked about it before. When evil shows up, it shows up complete. It may have more sophisticated weapons that it brings out, But it is what it is. It already shows up as evil, right? Now, it may show more of its evil as they pull the mask away, but that's really what you're getting. You're getting fully baked, ready to serve up evil. His idea with good is that good shows up and evolves. It has to evolve. Evil doesn't evolve. It can only get more evil, but it's still evil, right? It's already kind of blocked off, and maybe it has more horror in store, but it's already part of it. It's already part of the component that it is. Whereas good has to evolve, and it has to rise to challenges and changes. This is important. This is very important because Kurosawa, I think, nails this. And that's where we are. We are in this moment. And this Chiron and Aries moment is this strange synthesis of kind of this faux hero or faux heroic return from Europe. And then this other kind of manufactured, socially engineered decimation of what that looked like at a previous time becomes completely turned upside down, domestically, internationally. So this is the synthesis of that. And you can look at the social condition in 1968, which was really dealing with radicalism. A lot of race riots in 1968. You know, I think it was 67. Terrible riot in Detroit, really bad. And then you had the Detroit Tigers going to the World Series, brought the town together. Kind of an interesting story, actually. You had Watts. I mean, shit was going down. Right? So there are echoes of what we're experiencing now through 1968. There's echoes of 1918, 1919, right around there. There's echoes of that, dealing with things like the Spanish flu. So this is an interesting time. And we are living in a period where people will emerge. There will be people that will emerge during this time. And guess what? You might be one of those people. You may not think you are. You may say, "Well, I'm just a nobody. You know, I'm just trying to get through this shit." I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You might emerge during this time. And you may be capable of more than you could ever know or imagine. And that's important to understand. Because there are times, and I guarantee you, each one of us has had at least one experience in our life where we've been really tested and really tried, and we've gotten through it. Maybe there have been other times we might have faltered a little bit. But look back on a time in your life where you really had to do some heavy lifting, and you did it. And maybe you didn't get a medal for it. Maybe you didn't get your picture in the newspaper. But what you did was heroic because you had to do it. And maybe you didn't realize you had it in you. You step back and you go, wow, I did that. Right? Or maybe somebody said that to you. And you said, well, I did it because I had to. Well, not really. Sometimes people bail out. Sometimes people leave. Sometimes people, don't live up to their commitment to carrying something out and through. That's important. So when you say, well, I could never be that, or I could never do that, you've probably already done it once already, maybe twice. You can do it. And guess what? You will do it because you don't have any other choice. You have no other choice. And even if you don't, quote unquote, if you're not, quote unquote, victorious, whatever that means, by merely facing the challenge and by responding to it and doing your absolute best to look out for yourself, to look out for other people, to remain calm, and to understand that there's going to be a way through, you have achieved something very important. Very important. You got to have, during this time, you got to have some faith, okay? You have to have some faith, right? Whatever that is for you, because you're not going to really be able to get through this without faith, that there's something bigger guiding you, and it helps if you affirm it every day. So just remember, right? You have the capacity to rise to the occasion, because that's where we are now. You know, we're in this Chiron and Aries phase, and we're in this reconciliation and synthesis of these previous two periods. And we're seeing like this awkward attempt to mythologize Kyle Rittenhausen, but it's important. It's a message, right? It is a message from the collective unconscious about where we are and about what we're trying to do here in this time. And don't underestimate your effort and your ability to make an impact and rise to the occasion. And I think, you know, when we're all done with this, and we will be done with it at a certain point, people will tell stories about this time. And I think in the future, the victors will tell a very different tale than the ones that they've told in the past. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I guess I'll see you guys next week on the 26th. Have a great solstice. Get real quiet if you need to, want to. I won't have a show tomorrow, but I will be back on Tuesday. Do a show on Tuesday, but not tomorrow. And God bless, Goddess bless all of you. And use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. Thank you very much for being here. And enjoy your holidays, and however you do it with the people that you do it with. Make it special, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what's going to go down with this Venus-Pluto retrograde. Make it special. You know, what did the Queen say? This is going to be the last Christmas? She did say that, by the way. So take it all in. Make it count. And then be ready to do whatever you need to do, whatever that is. If it's your job in isolation or whatever for the next 3-4 months or whatever, that's what you got to do. Or if it's something bigger than that, well, lace them up. All right. Take good care. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye for now.